help me.
I want to warm these up before they're touching your ears.
Chill here. It'll block out the roosters.
No chance.
We got a little rooster fight going on.
Yeah. I think they even get Betty's rooster going.
Oh, they do?
Yeah, there's a chain across the mountain.
It's like the twilight barking for roosters.
Right. Maybe there is some special message that they're trying.
Help! They're stealing our eggs!
Howdy, I'm Nick. This week we made a whole lot of goals on our mudroom. We got the roofing on, we got the walls framed out, we got all the sheathing on, and we got all of the wrap done. We even put in some windows. So we're hitting all of our marks on this one, and I'll try and step you through all of the things that we did. So last you guys saw this, I guess we had just plywood on the roof. From there, I put a metal drip edge around the three sides at the bottom. And then I put on ice and water shield for the bottom 3 feet of the roof. And that just protects a little better from water that may be under your roofing. And then after that, I just put on regular roofing paper. I put all that on with the red cap nails, as few as possible, just to hold it down while I did the other work. After the paper was all on and secured down, I was able to get up there and do the steel roofing. This is all Delta rib galvanized steel roof that came off of an onion shed about 70 miles away from here. So not exactly local, but I got it for a heck of a price, and that's what's on the rest of the house as well. So I had enough left over to do this little addition. There was some angle cutting and whatnot to work along the hip, but that doesn't have to end up really nice and beautiful under there, because there's a big ridge cap that covers up all of that. So as long as you're reasonably close, it's going to be all right. So with all the roofing on, I was able to do that ridge cap. I used the universal foam seal tape on the underside of the ridge cap to keep critters from finding homes underneath all of the roofing. With that on, I was able to finally land the flashing that I put on first thing. So that flashing is it's a piece of galvanized steel. It goes up, I think, 3 inches behind the siding, right up against the sheathing, and then comes out on top of the roofing material about 6 inches. And I put the universal foam tape on the underside of that as well to keep those critters out.
It's awesome.
The roofing project was under time pressure because there was snow in the forecast. So the kids and I cheerfully stayed out of Nick's way, and although he didn't work into the night, he did work the edges of dawn and dusk.
So with the roof all taken care of, we could take a breath for a moment, let the snow come, which it did a little bit. and move on to framing the walls. The framing material that I used for this was from offcuts from the mill when milling posts and beams for this room. So I would take those offcuts, throw them back on the mill, and slice them thin and let them dry just like that. And then I take them out of the stack and I rip clean edges on it and rip it to width. In this case, I was essentially making 2x4s. I milled them at about 1.25 inches thick, and then I ripped them at 3.5 wide, and that is going to make a plenty stable, rigid wall.
That's it. Walk through a doorway. I'm not gonna walk through a doorway. I'm gonna walk through here.
Maybe step over the room there.
I'm gonna walk through here.
Okay.
With the timber frame, the large members are supporting the roof load. So these walls, they don't have to support a roof load at all. They just have to support the windows, stay rigid when you slam the doors and like that.
Not that anybody around here slams doors.
Nobody slams doors here. I've never been known to say, "Don't slam that door." So with the framing all up, we're ready to move on to sheathing. I chose 1/2-inch plywood. I like plywood over OSB. It just seems a little bit less like bug candy. So we go plywood around here.
I shot the staple gun.
How was it?
It was really good.
What were you doing?
We were putting the insulation on the corners of the mudroom.
Good job, honey.
Stella got some good tape measure time, helping me measure things out and making marks for me and understanding the process a little bit. Okay, you look at it. Do you want to use that side?
Sure.
Okay, I'm on it.
Okay.
Start it. You have the pencil.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Would you like pencil back?
It goes relatively quickly. It really doesn't have to be super pretty and tight. You actually want a little bit of space in between each piece for expansion and contraction. And we didn't glue it all, so all is well.
Other way down.
plywood extends up just above the top of the wall, so that when I put in the soffit material underneath the roof, then we'll have full coverage there. So lucky for all of you, the Lowe's house wrap is back.
Oh no, the house wrap is coming back.
We're going to cover it up really pretty quickly this time. I had the tail end of that Lowe's house wrap, so I used it. I also did ice and water shield on the bottom 3 feet of the exterior. That will get covered up with the scraps of steel roofing, much like the house has on it. And I just find that that's doing a great job of protecting the bottom end of that plywood from rain splash and from the snow piling up against it. No, not on the corner. We're going right into that. Right up here. We designed in several windows that we had from other projects. We had collected them from various places, and we just have a small inventory of windows. So I was working out of that when I designed the walls. Not everything was well taken care of in that storage pile, so we ended up changing a little bit as we went. I had thought that I had stored these windows quite well, but they'd been handled a lot of times. So in all of that handling, one of them had cracked and the other had just lost its seal. So the tall floor-to-ceiling window was no longer available to us, and so we had to make a little change. It actually ended up that I like the look of it a little better with the design change. We did want to bring in a whole lot of light.
So the window goes all the way to that corner. Winter sun goes all the way to that corner. And of course this is before noon, so it's angled. My shadow's headed west. The sun is still coming from the east. But that line right there is going to go, the sun's going to go all the way around.
It's just going to open up across that.
Yep.
But I really didn't want to pay for replacing that window or having it fixed. So I went with a little smaller window, a really commercially available window, meaning I was able to just go and pick it up off the shelf at the store. Really fairly inexpensive windows that we have in the front of this building. It would have been great to have more glass and to spend less money, but when things go sideways, I think we made a pretty reasonable decision to go with smaller windows.
It's been so fun this week to watch Nick just trucking along. Everything in our house goes better when Nick has a project, and I am particularly invested in this room. It's a small room by most people's standards, but it's going to change my life in a couple of wonderful ways.
I feel like we're clipping right along as far as pace goes. It certainly isn't the breakneck pace of building the house. You know, I'm still having dinner with the family every night and not doing nighttime hours at all. It's a pretty reasonable sized project, really. But I'm really happy to have it all dried in, minus the door, of course. But we're ready to move on to some trim and some siding and making it look pretty from the outside. I'm Nick. Thanks for watching.
making my snowman wave.